I want to go back to the social aspect because I think this is actually something that people just completely forget about. And I would argue that it's probably a good portion of the health contributing things, contributing whatever of a lot of activities, and it is the social aspect of those activities. Like if you go to the gym, yeah, obviously going to the gym is fantastic for your health. You lift some weights, you do some cardio, blah blah blah. But if you do that and you feel like you're part of a community in that gym. You have the same people that you see every day, you say hello to them. Fucking Terry over there helps you with whatever your incline bench, he gives you a spot. Him, what he's working towards. His family, his wife comes in half an hour later than him after she dropped off the kids, or whatever it is. You start knowing other people in this community here in terms of the gym. Like that's a much more health promoting environment than you're just this random anonymous person, this face in the gym. The people that work in the gym, they don't even like recognize you. They don't even like you, give you the nod, hey, what's up? It's like you're humans, and you're not interacting together. And that's stuff that you see a lot in like bigger cities. Like obviously I'm living in London now, and you do see that a lot, where you see just like faceless individuals, and they look it like you can actually almost feel it off them, where they haven't had a positive interaction with another human just randomly in weeks, months, and they could be living at home on their own, working from home. Maybe they do this, whatever, they go out here, they don't interact with people, and as a result, like you can almost feel that off them. Like it's weird, right? So like you need to be integrated into your community, whether that is, again, even stuff like going to the gym. Like I've talked about it before on the podcast, but like stuff that I do because again, I moved country, so I'm disconnected from my usual support network. I can't even speak today. My friends, my family, etc. Like I go to the gym, I say hello to people, give a nod. Even if it's just that. Oh, you finish using this machine. You're actually talking to other human beings, and it is something that again you build friendships over time. Then the same way I go to jiu-jitsu, so it's a bit more intimate than just saying, are you using that machine, when you're like choking people out, they're choking you. But you do start. It's weird because it's like you become more happy. Which it's weird to say, where you're just like it just is the thing. You interact with more humans and all of a sudden you're happier. And I know that's probably, it stops at a certain point, especially if you work in retail or something. Like you interact with more humans, you probably hate your life more. But up to a certain extent, like interacting with other human beings and actually having fun with them, it is enjoyable. It actually contributes to your health. Like you definitely feel healthier. And I know feeling isn't everything, but that's what we're talking about in this episode. It is that kind of subjective stuff. Like, do you think the difference between the muscle gain from the workout you do, where you do it on your own, you fucking get your headphones in, you're real psyched up, and you head eyes down the whole time, and you never talk or interact with anyone, versus the workout that you do, the exact same workout, but you have a laugh with your friends there, you interact with a few different people, they help you in the gym, blah blah blah. Like, do you think the muscle gain difference is going to be huge? Yeah, probably not, but I can tell you which one of those individuals is going to go home way happier, right? Like you might be happy, yeah, from the first example, going, yeah, I hit a new PB in the gym, but you're going to be way happier thinking like, oh yeah, I hit a new PB in the gym, and remember Terry and fucking Mary and whoever else, like I was, they're great banter and whatever, like it is something that you have to do. And again, it's very easy in this modern world, especially if you live in a big city, because I know we have a lot of listeners from a variety of different, big cities like LA and different things like that, where it is very easy to become a faceless individual. And you might think, again, like you're hunting down your success, you're an entrepreneur, you're a lone wolf, blah, blah, blah. But it's probably not doing your health any good to be that individual. So do you have anything to say on community, Gary? Because we could spend, hours talking about this, and I do have a few more points I want to bring up. But what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I just think that that's something that is really important for you to reflect on, because it's something that you can gloss over, but you want to ask yourself, right, as you listen to this podcast, what are the core communities that you are part of, and that could start with the small and then kind of zoom out and ask yourself what your role in that community is. It's actually something it's taught in many different religions, really. But if you look at the catechism, the Catholic Church, one of the things that's in there is like that the human being is basically not complete or not doing its job unless you're integrated into your community, that it's not enough just to be, a good person or someone that you feel, you're on the path or whatever. you're also integrated into your community. And you can see how that's really beneficial, because if you have a strong community, it means that everyone else benefits from whatever it is that you're developing, so that your individual pursuits actually rub off on everyone else. And then you can't do everything, so their individual pursuits then rub off on you. And that's something that's really beneficial, whether it's in a sport like jiu-jitsu, where you've been working on, heel hooks and leg attacks, and someone else has been working on kimura traps or something like that, and you benefit from each other, or you're really interested in history and someone else is really interested in geology, and boom, you learn from them. They're the types of things that are really important long term, for even if you're just focused on your own development, it's still something that helps. So be part of a community and ask yourself what those communities are. So is it your sporting community? Is it the community, even if it's going to the pub, on a Friday night, that there's the same people each week that you meet up with and you play darts or you watch the football or whatever it happens to be? Those types of things are often key sources of meaning for people in Ireland, particularly rural Ireland. And it's something that often gets mocked, because if you look at the Healy Ray politicians, people often think of them as a bit of a joke, because they've got funny accents and they say some ridiculous things, but they actually make a lot of good points a lot of the time, because what they're often arguing for is they're trying to be the voice of rural Ireland. People who, they might live 5 kilometers from the next house, and every Friday night, they go to the pub and they meet up with the same 5 or 6 people, and they're the only people they see in the week, and they're in their 70s or their 80s. And obviously drink driving bans and everything that came in would have significantly impacted their ability to meet up with those people and to have their role in the community. And while drink driving bans are certainly a net positive, the example that they're often arguing for is the fact that, well, this is actually really important for these people. So if you were to just look at, going to the pub, drinking alcohol as a bad thing, and you view that as a bad thing, if that's your only source of community, that's actually something that's probably a net positive long term. So when you're thinking about those health behaviors, I think, and their relationship to community, you do have to do a bit of an analysis, because if you're listening to this and you're saying, oh, time to go to the pub every single night, like, that's obviously a net negative for health. Okay, there's a point at which it becomes that net negative, much like if you were going to go and train and you go and do a 4-hour run out of nowhere, that's going to be a net negative for your health. So community, think about the community that you have access to at the moment, how that can support you. If something did go wrong, your house got flooded, you were sick, whatever, do you have people that can support you? And if not, are there ways that you could begin to develop some of those relationships and strengthen your role in that community? And that's the kind of key point. The way I said it there is your role in that community, because it's about you giving something and then them giving something back, and it's reciprocity, really. And that's very protective for health long term.
Yeah, just going back to that kind of pub example, like I remember even my granddad on my dad's side, like he used to just walk down to the pub every day. That was his thing. He'd walk down to the pub, have one or two, walk back. Now, again, he lived within like 15 minutes of the pub. That was probably his only exercise.
Yeah.
And then when he wasn't able to do that because he had like heart complications, he basically just sat at home all day,
Yeah.
and like the difference in terms of like the person that walked to the pub versus the person that just sat at home all day, like you might look at that and go, oh, he's drinking, 2 pints of Guinness per day. That's bad health, whatever. But that was what was keeping him going. That was like, that was the focal point of his day, and like he was, fought in World War II, lived through the fucking everything. So like you can imagine like his life, as a microcosm of many other people's lives, in terms of, imagine what happens when you just get disconnected from your community, right? Like all of a sudden you're not in the community anymore. And again, the pub is the example here in this one, where it's like, you're just brought out of that, right? The community is still there, they're thriving over wherever, but you're no longer in it. What would happen to that individual? You would naturally think, okay, well, that person's going to have worse health outcomes because they have been taken out of their community, their whatever. Same again, if you were to just, I don't know, be plopped down into a different country, you didn't speak the language, you weren't able to communicate with anyone, like, do you think you're going to feel good? Do you think you're going to be in a good position? No, obviously not, right? So you want to be part of a community, and that means, again, like you said there, it is that kind of reciprocity where you have to give something to the community, as well as, you know, the community has to give something to you. And if you don't have that in your life, you know, you're going to have to do something to foster that, whether it is, you know, I don't know, getting a job that has you working in the office. You know, you might be like, oh, work from home is great because I can just roll out of bed. But if that leaves you disconnected from your actual, like, you know, any social situations, it's probably not going to be great for you, you know, especially if you like, if you just live at home, work from home, don't interact with anyone ever, you know, like, that's probably not going to be great for you long term, right? So you want to be integrated into a community. You want to have some sort of social circle, whether it is, you know, family, like the traditional, like that kind of nuclear family and extended nuclear family has been for eons the way, you know, humans have, you know, lived. And, you know, they've obviously then been integrated into, you know, a smaller community of, like, you know, like-minded individuals, oftentimes, you know, a village or whatever, and they all work in the same area, they all do the same kind of things. Not great from an economic standpoint, because, you know, it takes one tragedy and then the whole fucking industry and the whole town is gone or whatever. But it is great from a cohesion perspective, in terms of, you know, everyone knows everyone's business and everyone's willing to help everyone else, right? So again, if you're not part of a community, you're going to have to get yourself part of a community, whether that's making more friends in the gym, whether that's, again, getting an office job and going into work and, you know, talking to people in work, you know, meeting up with them outside of work, whatever, or the friends, family, whatever that you have currently, and actually engaging with them and actually doing stuff. You know, oh, are you doing something on the weekend? Like, let's do something, blah, 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 organizing stuff. You know, you're going to have to do that if you want to get the best health, because, again, it goes back to that thing where, you know, you look back on your life and you're whatever 80 years old because you didn't interact with anyone, you didn't have any friends and family, versus the Chad 120-year-old triage listener. um you know, like, you're looking back and you're 80 and you're like, oh, like, I have no one here for me, I have no friends, no family, I didn't, you know, cultivate those relationships, you know. And maybe, again, like, it is the case that the only thing that you ever interact with people is down the pub, and then you get a leg injury, now you're sidelined, a hip injury or something, and it's like, right, it's just downhill from there. You know, there's no one else able to help you. You know, you didn't cultivate those relationships, you didn't have children, you didn't do anything like that, right? So you want to be part of a community, right? It's plain and simple. I think everyone listening to this will in some way agree with that. There are other ways that you can do this. Again, traditionally, there would have been some sort of a spiritual outlet for this as well, you know, like, you have some religiosity or some religion or whatever. Fortunately or unfortunately, like, that's not really the case in the modern world, although people do try to fill that, you know, God-shaped hole in their heart with different things, whether it's, you know, whatever. Anyway, so you can do that, and you can gain a community in a negative way as well, you know. So you do have to watch out for that. But even then, even if it is a community that, you know, we would probably say is a negative community, or it's not helping society as a whole move forward, it's probably helping you in terms of your own individual health. Anyway, Gary, do you have anything to say on that?
I don't think so. I think that covers the community point pretty well.
Fantastic. Well, do you have anything else to say on this kind of, again, softer aspect, whatever you want to call this stuff, the integration of the human? Do you have anything else to say that would contribute to health? Because, again, like, we could talk about this stuff all day. There's so many different things, but basically we're advocating, you know, spend some time actually getting to know yourself, right? And then integrate that into society, and then be an integral part of your community, whether it's, again, helping out in your neighborhood, your family, your friends, your fucking job, your whatever. Like, be someone that other people are happy to be around.